Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Tales from the Fandom. This is the final episode of 2020, and I am joined once again by longest reigning guest, Jachelle Overstreet, as she comes back. And this is attempt number 2 to finish it out. If 2020 has taught us anything, is that expect the unexpected.
Absolutely. I will state for the record that I am counting both of these recordings in my total number of episodes. So,
even though on my end there was nothing, I had a whole hour plus of just nothing. Thank you very much, audio recording software, for not doing what I had asked you to do. But now we get to do it again and see how well this one turns out.
So hard to have to sit and talk to you for an hour. Oh my gosh.
I know. It's tragic. I don't know how anyone puts up with me on this podcast for over 4.5 years.
No, you are a lovely human being, and it always brightens up my day to get to talk to you.
Well, I do so well on the text version. That's why I just keep it once a week to audio only for people. It's just too much. So 2020... This episode's either going to come out today, which is November 30th, or tomorrow, December 1st. It's fitting either way because it's almost the end of the year. We've had a lot of stuff happen this year, whether it's been political stuff, entertainment stuff, just personal stuff. I mean, it has been a year just filled with, I don't know, like, I still feel like we're in March or April at this point, and I don't understand what's going on.
It has been simultaneously like the longest and yet shortest year of my life. Like, it feels like it has gone on forever, but at the same time, I'm like, no, like you said, it still sometimes feels like we're still in March somehow.
Yeah, time is a
time
construct.
Has no meaning.
That's right. Hey, and look at that. See, somebody even rang the doorbell. What's going on with that? That's okay. They're just delivering stuff because obviously we placed orders.
Probably a package delivery.
Yes, that is a guarantee.
It could be your presents.
It could be. I'm expecting a lot of things to be coming in the next couple days. However, two things that I'm not expecting that I wanted to talk about at last recording we did, and I'm going to talk about it this recording, is that two of my favorite shows ended this year, and they ended probably as strong as any TV show possibly could have ended, if not even better. And that was Schitt's Creek and The Good Place, which really, if we could get a spinoff just called
Schitt's Place.
The Schitt's Place or the Good Creek, you know, as long as it's not with Dawson and Pacey, we'll be okay.
Yes. Yes. Those were absolutely two of my favorite shows. And while I was sad to see them both end because they were one of the few things that like brought happiness into my life, I was also really glad that they ended on their own terms and they ended before it went downhill. Like, they knew exactly where they wanted to end. They told the story they needed to, and then they just ended it. And that's the way more TV should be, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Go with a plan of, I want to tell this story. It's kind of like that show way back in like the 80s. Like, I can answer this clue in like 5 notes, like for music or something. Well, I could finish this show in 3 seasons and make it great. Okay, do it and show me that you can. Like, that is one of the things that I love, and I think it's something where, especially with those two shows, they knew what they wanted to do. They did what they set out to do, and they were like, you know what? There's not really a reason to try and do more. This is what we wanted to do, and this is how we're going to go out. And they nailed the landings on both.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that I think more shows should definitely do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I just want to give particular kudos to The Good Place, because that show dealt with so many like complex storylines and philosophies. It really could have gone off the rails if they tried to drag it out too long, but like they kept those storylines so tight and everything had a good resolution. It was really satisfying, not just as like a TV viewer, but as a writer myself. I was in awe of some of the things that they did on that series.
It's absolutely incredible that they were able to bring a TV show about essentially philosophy and ethics
Philosophy, yeah.
and make it understandable to a mass audience. And really, I'm granted, I'm sure there were portions where it's like, huh, like let me think about that, but I like the ones that did make you think and make you
Yeah.
ponder and make you like really question what ideas that they were trying to get out there. And not only was it like the philosophy and ethics of, say, like the Greeks, like Plato and Socrates, and but you had like the Europeans, you had some uh Eastern Asian, like you had all these influences that they had brought in to really just talk about like the afterlife and how to be a better person, which we all need.
Absolutely. Yeah, especially now. I mean, I am a fairly optimistic, positive person 99% of the time, but this year has kind of beaten me down. I find myself feeling more dejected a lot of the time and not looking for the best in people, and shows like that still remind me that like no, like people make mistakes, of course, but there are still good people out there. There are people who can learn and grow and do good in the world, and I think that's important to remember.
Absolutely. It's definitely something. I was thinking, I was like, man, if I lived 100 years, that 1% would be 2020. Like that 2020 years
Yes.
going to be like that odd blip of like, oh, well, and 30 years from now, we'll be looking back and it's just like, oh yeah, that's a 2020 thing. That why did you purchase this? Oh, that was 2020. Like just
This is
let it go and
2020.
let me have it.
It's true.
It is, but yeah, Good Place. I mean, you and I had watched it for. I know that like for myself, I love Kristen Bell, so I try to watch whatever she's in. And
Yes.
last recording, you were like Kristen Bell, and you love
And
Ted Danson.
Ted Danson. So and it was funny. I was actually talking to my mom about this the other day. Because we had mentioned Seinfeld, and my stepfather had asked if like I had been big into Seinfeld when it was on, and I was like, I was never really too into Seinfeld, but I loved Cheers. Like I would tune into Cheers every episode, and I pointed out, I was like, I don't think I understood 75% of what was going on in that show because I was very young, but I loved it anyway, and I loved Ted Danson. So yeah, I've had a great fondness for him for years. So, and again, I also love Kristen Bell. So when I found out they were going to be in a show together, I was very excited, and then it pulled me in right off the bat. It was a very funny, witty show, very clever. I was a little concerned after the first season ended. I was like, where are they going to go from here? And boy, did they surprise me in the best possible ways.
Absolutely, it's definitely when the season ended, and you're like, what are you talking about? And then to see what they came up with for each season, it wasn't retreads, and it wasn't, oh, let's just do the same storyline for the next couple seasons. It's they really just created something new each time and went out there. And I don't think there's any episodes where I felt like they were filler episodes. It wasn't where I struggled to get through the season. It was a show that I was always ready to watch.
Yes. Every single episode was important to the overall story, even if it was just like moving pieces into place. for like a bigger payoff down the line. Like you could still tell every episode was very important. And one of the things that I loved the most is obviously this is a wonderful ensemble cast. And I loved every single character, but also every single character got like really good growth. Like a lot of times with ensemble shows, the focus is like on a small group and then the side characters don't get as much, but like this one everybody got this really great growth and it was wonderful to see.
Indeed. I don't even know what to say. Like I'm looking forward to seeing what each of the core cast members do for the future. I fell in love with each of them. I fell in love with some of the side characters, like those secondary characters.
Sure.
And it's
Vicky
always
and Sean, yeah, they were fantastic.
Yes, and the actor who plays Sean, it cracks me up
I love
because
him.
Brooklyn,
Mark Evan
like
Jackson.
he's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He is on The Good Place. Every time I see him pop up, it's hilarious because I can't like he's one of those character actors where he's just got that voice and that look, and he can give you that he can give you the look with his eyes and you're like, yeah, I feel you. Like, I understand your disappointment.
Yes. He had a very small reoccurring role in Parks and Rec as well. And don't quote me on this one because I don't know The Office as well, but I'm pretty sure he was on The Office. I think Mike Schur has put him in like everything he's done.
Yeah, I think he was in The Office, but it's been a while since I've watched it. And then I think next month, The Office is gone from Netflix to Peacock, so no more binge watching of that for me.
Yeah, we I think there was some threat of both Parks and Rec and The Office being removed from Netflix last year. So I believe it was last Black Friday. My husband and I bought the full set of Parks and Rec and The Office because we knew we wanted to have it available for binge watching at any time.
That's right. And so we had The Good Place, and on the flip side, and you talked about seeing the good in people and seeing that people can change on
Yes.
The Good Place. On Schitt's Creek, and we had talked about this last recording, which let me just say, people that are listening, I will be referencing that just out of spite and habit, and malice to this recording program for doing this to me. But we had talked about how in Schitt's Creek, the way that they presented the world of Schitt's Creek is the ideal world that I would love to live in now, where people can be any way that they want to be and be out there and have their life to live without any judgment or issues or any sort of it's a world where everything is just accepted, and not just accepted, it is like,
but and it's not in like a pandering way, like David Rose is the perfect example. He's a very eccentric human being, and people definitely don't always understand him, and they might be a little confused by the way he acts sometimes, but they never condemn him or treat him less than he should be treated because he's flamboyant and because he likes to wear dresses and, for his sexuality or any of those things, which is really wonderful.
Absolutely. That and that's where my ramble was going. But
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it is not cutting me off because other people say things a lot better than I can. But that world, I love that they created it to be that way, to be just accepting. And they are living in small town backwoods Canada of Schitt's Creek, which doesn't really exist, but it, in our hearts and minds it does. And just the townspeople didn't care. They were like, whatever. I will say that my heart broke for Stevie many a times. Yes,
Stevie. She definitely grew on me. I was a little like, I loved her sarcasm in the beginning. Like I just her her wit was wonderful. And so that sort of drew me to her. But again, talking about growth arcs, Stevie was this, small town girl who ran the front desk at a hotel and had not a whole lot of ambition or drive or much of anything in her life. And then here comes the Rose family crashing into this hotel and just completely changed everything about her life. They helped her become a success with the Rosebud Hotel. Johnny taught her a lot about business, and David pushed her to, seek out more from life. And she just had this really wonderful growth arc that makes me a little emotional.
I love that everyone had that growth
Mhm.
across, not only like for Stevie, but for the entire Rose family,
Yeah,
from Alexa to David, Moira,
Alexis.
Johnny, Alexis. I don't know what's going on today, but it'll work
But
itself out.
funny sidebar to that. So we have an Amazon tap in our kitchen, which is right next to the living room where I watch TV. And whenever I would be watching the new episode of Schitt's Creek, and someone, usually Moira, would yell Alexis, Alexa would think I was talking to it, and it sort of would start talking back to me, trying to ask me to clarify what I had just said. And I was like, no, wasn't talking to you.
Oh, technology. Why are you getting in our way?
Anyway, continue. I just thought that was funny considering you just made that same mistake.
Well, I will say, let's see here, that the character growth was wonderful and amazing, and I like that the things that didn't work, they realized that maybe they didn't work, and they moved on from it.
Mm-hmm.
I like there were times where certain characters got on my nerves more than others, and I questioned their decision of why they included them more. Which the mayor is definitely one of those characters. Was like, I don't know if I can put up with him for like more than 5 minutes or 6 minutes, but he worked. It eventually worked out.
I think Roland worked really well as a foil for Johnny and for spurring Johnny's growth. So while we didn't always understand some of the things that were going on with him, I feel like that was kind of his purpose, was to really be that foil for Johnny.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And we talked about it last episode, that people are knowing who Moira or Catherine O'Hara is from the role of Moira,
Yes.
but didn't know. And it came to a shock to me when I found out last week-ish, before we recorded, that she was the mom for Home Alone. And coincidentally, my kids decided to watch part of Home Alone yesterday, and I really,
Nice.
I was eyeballing the TV and squinting, and I can see it, but it's been 35-ish, 40 years, and it just I can see it and I can hear it, but the Moira voice obviously does not match up with the Kevin's mom from Home Alone voice.
Her most memorable role to me growing up was the stepmother in Beetlejuice. That was always the role that stuck out for her in my head. But yeah, I'm just like tickled to death that there's this whole new generation, Gen Z and Gen Alpha, I think, is the next gen after Gen Z. I don't know. But like that they've kind of grown up seeing her in the role of Moira Rose, and now they're getting, because she has a huge, filmography, and so now they get the chance to like see her in these other roles. And we had mentioned this in the previous recording, but I'm gonna bring it up again because I feel like it deserves to be mentioned. If you enjoy Catherine O'Hara and Eugene Levy together, please go watch Christopher Guest's movies, because they are in a lot of them and they are wonderful together.
Yes, I think we pointed out, you had pointed out Mighty Wind.
Mighty Wind is one of my favorites, and I think those two in particular are just like wonderful together in that one. I think their chemistry was fantastic. But yeah, they are together in quite a few of his movies.
Yeah, and I love Best in Show. It's one of those movies I really want the kids to watch just because it's so weird.
Yeah, I don't like I love and adore them, and they always make me happy, but they are very weird, and I don't know if that translates to kids or not. I guess you know your kids better than I do, but
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know.
We made them watch, or my movie choice was this week on Friday, so they got to watch Galaxy Quest.
Which, yes, you did tell me about that. Well, I'm glad you said they liked that one, right?
What, 1 out of 3? One fell asleep, one said that they didn't like it, and one said that they liked it. So
Wait,
I'll take
who
that as a
didn't like
win.
it? Who didn't like it?
Xander claims he didn't like it. I don't know if he's just saying that to be like,
Maybe it's just being contrary.
yes, he likes to do that. But yeah, it's always something.
But yeah, Galaxy Quest is a classic. So I'm glad at least one of them liked it.
Yeah, and Michelle said, because she had never seen it either, and she said that her expectations were extremely low and they surpassed it. So hooray for
gosh.
that.
We here I live in Salt Lake City, Utah, and we have our Salt Lake Comic-Con that, well, prior to this year would happen every year. And there's this group, they call themselves the Thermians of Utah, and they dress up as the Thermians from Galaxy Quest, and they just wander around the floor at the Comic-Con reacting to like the people in cosplay and like, you know, recording things for their I forgot what they call them. Whatever they call their recordings in the movie. It's been a while since I've seen it. But so they wander around the con floor completely in character the whole time, and they're absolutely wonderful. They are on Facebook. Go look them up, Thermians of Utah. They're wonderful, and they deserve some more love.
I will have to make a link in the show notes to that and check them out myself. And speaking of Thermians, it's been a long while since I had seen Galaxy Quest. That the main Thermian is Keith Mars from Veronica Mars.
Rico, yes.
And then one of the side like background Thermians is Rainn Wilson from The Office, who plays Dwight.
Oh, I didn't realize that. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was like, I've recognized that baby face back there. That baby face Thermian. And I'm like, that's Dwight Schrute.
Okay, completely off topic, and you can cut this part out, but I just have to say this. So we watched the Christmas Chronicles 2 the other night.
Okay.
Have you seen it yet?
No, we've only seen the first one whenever that one was released. We didn't watch anything Christmas this week.
Okay, well, it was cute. It's definitely not as good as the first one, but like it's worth watching once. However, Belsnickel is one of the characters in this movie. And I'm just sitting there going, the fact that they did not get Rainn Wilson to play Belsnickel is a hugely missed opportunity.
Oh my goodness. That's when I hear that word, the first thing that comes to my mind is
Dwight.
Dwight coming in dressed as him, as that character. Like, come on now.
We have the Funko Pop as Dwight dressed up as Belsnickel.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah,
awesome.
So when I realized who that character was, I was like, man, they really should have gotten Rainn Wilson to play this character. It wouldn't have worked, but it was a funny joke in my head. Anyway, back to the topic at hand.
I'm totally there for it. Well, let's I guess. So we had the two wonderful shows that ended.
Yes.
Now, what shows this year? Movies? I guess movies, because I guess movies have been coming out, kind of on.
It's true. We've gotten a few.
We've gotten a few, not as many as we would have, because lots of things got shut down. We went an entire year without Marvel having anything come out, whether it was the new TV series that they're doing or any of the movies that were supposed to have come out, and they're all pushed back to next year. So of the stuff that has come out, what have you dug? Like what's some of this new stuff that you've gotten into?
So as I mentioned previously, this year has really kind of beaten me down a lot. So I think in response to that, a lot of the media that I've been consuming this year has been very light and like wholesome and happy, and just kind of simplistic. Like I don't want anything depressing or too heavy or dark. So I've been kind of sticking to lighter shows. A good Christmas themed one that I would like to recommend to everybody is on Netflix, and it's called Dash and Lily. It is based on a book, Dash and Lily's Book of Dares, which is written by the same co-author team that wrote Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which was a movie several years ago. And it's super cute. It's about a couple of teenagers who both find themselves alone at Christmas. Lily is super optimistic and peppy and looks for the best in everything. And Dash is really cynical and jaded and hates Christmas. And they connect through this notebook. And essentially they will give the other one a dare. The other one completes that dare, and then they write about themselves, and then they switch the notebook back. The other person does a dare and then writes about themselves, but it's set up in a way that they never actually meet. So they're communicating solely through this notebook, and they learn about themselves and about each other, and they fall in love. And it's Christmas time, and the Jonas Brothers make a surprise appearance, and it's just really cute and happy. And I watched the entire thing in a day. They're like 25-minute episodes, so it's super. It's not like a huge commitment to get into. And I actually convinced you to watch it because I kept raving about it. So what did you think of it?
We sat down and we watched it. I think we broke it up into like 2 or 3 episode blocks. So we'd watch 2 episodes and then pick it up the next night and watch 2 more. So we tried to extend it. We really loved it. We weren't like it's always something hit or miss with Christmas themed shows and movies. You get the good ones and you get some not so good ones, but Dash and Lily were really great. I loved their characters. I find myself as me looking back on how I was at the tender age of 17. I definitely would have loved to have like a Lily in my life because she brings so much energy and passion and joy and like you said, like that positivity aspect. Like, absolutely. I think that I would have loved to have her as a friend. Dash is somebody that reminds me a little bit like I can see myself in Dash, like very like loner. I have like 1 or 2 really close friends and not really like super social about stuff and having definite walls up back then. But
absolutely.
I really,
you'd rather stay home with a book than go out.
Exactly. And I was one of those people that would go to like B. Dalton or Barnes and Noble or Walden Books and just be in the bookstore for hours, just looking at books and flipping through books. And
me too.
We enjoyed it. I think our only complaint was that, and we joked about it because New York City is its entirely own world, and things like kids, even though they're presented as like 17, they
still, you're kind of like mini adults, like they just do whatever with zero consequences.
Exactly. And again, that is also New York for you. And I speak from knowing kids that were growing up in New York. That is definitely like that kind of thing where it's like, okay, do what you want, just make sure you're home by X time, essentially. So that
I do not know what that is like.
Yeah, so that was the only thing. Was at times it felt like they should have been like college freshmen or even just like aged up just a bit, but at the same time I enjoyed it. And I love that I love that there's the scene with the Hollaback boys, and like that like just having that inclusion made me just really just appreciate it even more.
I specifically meant to ask you about that one because when you started watching it, I was like, oh, he's gonna get to see that scene.
Oh, it was so good. It's not only like the music and everything, and I'd love to hear some more music from in that vein.
Oh yeah,
But
I'm sure it's out
Lily's
there.
dancing is awesome.
Yes. And that scene where she freaks out and runs into the bathroom and she looks up and she sees he's left her a note on the mirror, I thought was just like a really cute little way to show that he has started to really understand her and knows what to say to get her back out there.
Yes, I really enjoyed it, and I loved oh gosh, her great aunt or great
Mrs. Basil E.
yes, Mrs. Basil E. I love that her and then Dash's friend at the pizza place. I love that those were like the two connections
Yes.
between Dash and Lily at times, and I really dug that.
Absolutely. I want to give a small shout out. This will only make sense if anyone listening has actually seen the show, but to the costume shop lady who Dash had to convince to get an address from, and he started comparing himself to the Phantom of the Opera.
Yes.
And her response was just, his name is Eric. And I was like, oh God, this woman is me. This woman is me. So yes, I just wanted to give a small shout out to her because I love her and I want to see more of her.
Yes, that would be awesome. Just have a whole Dash and Lily universe.
Yeah. So that was a really good, fun Christmassy one. So if you find yourself looking for something light to watch as Christmas approaches, I would recommend that one. Another one that's very similar to Dash and Lily is called Julie and the Phantoms. It is also a Netflix series. Again, they're like 25 to 30-minute episodes. There's only like 8 or 9 episodes. So again, something you can get through super quick. It's not a big undertaking. And it revolves around a teenage rock band that was just about to make it big in the 90s when they ate some bad street hot dogs and died. And then they end up appearing in present day, 25 years later, trying to figure out what happened. And they can only be seen by one girl, a teenage girl named Julie. And they, through a series of events, learn that people can see them when they play in a band with Julie. So they form a band. And it's really adorable and sweet. And the friendships and the humor and the music. Oh my gosh. I love pop music. I will say that completely without shame. But oh my gosh, the music in this is really good. And I feel like a lot of people will like it even if they don't genuinely like a lot of pop music. It's just fun and like really upbeat. And yeah, so you should watch Julie and the Phantoms.
That is a great show. I think we had a number of mutual people talking about it at the same time, and I convinced the family, because we normally watch a show during the week, so we'll watch like an episode or two of some show, just to pass the time before it's time for the kids to go to bed. And I was like, okay, we're watching Julie and the Phantoms because I've heard too many great things about it. I thought it was going to be a hard sell because there's a number of differing personalities in this family, but we all enjoyed it. We all got into it, and the music, again, wonderful music, great cast of characters, great actors playing them. I love Julie. I'm really excited to see where they go with the next season.
Yeah, they better have a next season because I need to know what happened at the end of season 1.
Yeah, and I can't believe it's actually they adapted it from a Spanish version
Really?
like that was, yeah, it was a Spanish show first, and then they adapted it for an American I guess an American audience.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
It is awesome. I dug that like little piece of like information when I was researching it, and I was like, oh, you mean it's already existed before?
And it was fun it was fun for me as a kid who grew up in the 90s. I was born in 85, so a lot of my earliest memories are from the 90s. So to see like the 90s references from these boys whose, lives abruptly ended in 1995, just like the clothing styles and some of their word choices, I was like, oh yeah, this takes me back.
Yeah, I find myself whenever, especially like late 80s or especially like with the 90s, there's a lot of stuff that's coming out now that references that. I'm like, I understand every single one of those references. But yeah, that is another great show. And again, Netflix, so check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are both on Netflix. The third series I watched this year is also on Netflix. So clearly I'm just hooked on Netflix at this point.
Hooked on Netflix, hooked on a Netflix. You're in a pandemic.
It's my best friend right now. So a friend of mine had recommended this to me. I really enjoy animated, movies, TV shows. I enjoy animation in all its forms. And I also really love superheroes. So my friend was like, hey, well, there's this animated superhero show that I think you would enjoy. So I started watching it, and it is called Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. And the two main characters are teenage superheroes. Mironette is Ladybug, and Adrian is Cat Noir. And they fight crime in the city of Paris and defeat supervillains. And it's really bright and wholesome and cute. There's not a lot of overt violence or anything. It's all very simple, but it's very sweet. And one of the things I love the most about it is actually the main villain of the series. He goes by the name Hawkmoth, and his superpower is to harness the negative emotions of other people and turn them into supervillains to do what he wants them to do. And I just thought that was like a really cool, unique concept for a supervillain. Like, he doesn't really do much himself. He kind of controls other people into doing it for him, or manipulates them, I guess is a better way to say that. And there is a bizarre love square sort of thing happening in the show, because Ladybug and Cat Noir don't know each other's secret identities for their own safety. It's like this whole big rule that they've set up within the universe. If they find out who the other person is, like, the whole world's going to fall apart. And Mironette is in love with Adrian, who is Cat Noir. Well, Cat Noir is in love with Ladybug, who is Mironette. So they're both in love with each other, but neither of them know it. And they keep, like, I don't know, causing each other all this misery because they're both in love with other people, but it's the same people, and it drives me a little bit crazy sometimes. But overall, the show is very cute. And you have watched at least one episode.
I have watched one episode, and for those that are listening, if you're watching on Netflix, go to the Wikipedia and find the actual correct order in how to watch them, because they are not in order, at least on season 1, at all. So definitely use the Wikipedia as a guide on which episodes to watch, because I started off with what they said was episode 1, and it was really, I think, episode either 2 or episode 6. So I've only watched the one. I got sucked into something else, and it's totally my fault. But I will be returning either the rest later this year to it, because I've only got a month left, or finishing it off next like January. But it is on my list, and I have started it. I dig the animation, and coincidentally, because I've watched so many shows that feature Paris in it, that every time I see Paris, I just connect all these different universes of characters. And, well, wouldn't that be cool if they just had X character from this show in this series? And it is something that my brain has just done with Paris, and it's never going to get off the Paris issue that I have now.
I'm the more I get into Find Me in Paris, I'm probably going to be like right behind you in that
Well, yeah, because we did Find Me in Paris this year with the kids. Michelle and I watched Emily in Paris, which is coincidentally also on Netflix, and also features several of the locations from Find Me in Paris, because obviously Paris. Um, and then Miraculous was again set in Paris, and it's definitely just there's a lot of Paris going on, and that
Absolutely.
works. It works. It works in my head. Well, those were wonderful three choices, and coincidentally, all of the things that I have watched, or at
Yes.
least started to watch. So yay! Now you had mentioned something which I don't think we talked about last time. We kind of talked about a different path, but with 2020, it has wiped out a number of things. I know we talked about movie theaters in last
Yes.
time we recorded, but I also want to throw in comic conventions is something where
Yeah.
they like, and not only is basically all the major ones got canceled for this year, the some of the big names that kick off, I guess, like con season have already been canceled for next year as well.
Yeah, that does not surprise me. As much as I enjoy Comic Cons, that it I mean, that's barely a safe situation in non-pandemic. uh, like, I mean, con crud is a pretty common occurrence. Like, whenever I go, I try to touch as few surfaces as possible. I keep hand sanitizer with me at all times. Like, and I'll take like uh vitamin C supplements and stuff like a week beforehand. And there are still some times that I will get sick, even with all those precautions.
Yep.
And that's just in a regular year. So yeah, on the heels of pandemic, even once the vaccine and whatnot is out there, I definitely won't be taking any chances for at least a few years.
Yeah, we our big show, MegaCon here in Orlando, has they last year they canceled it, but they pushed it back to like October, and then they went ahead and just straight up canceled it again, and now they started selling tickets as of Friday, for this coming year. I think it's in May or June,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, because
I
on the Saturday is generally like 100,000 people in attendance.
Yeah, and there's no way to like safely social distance or sanitize things on a busy day at a con. It's literally impossible.
Exactly. And I will say that in Florida, because I live in the land of ridiculousness, is that there have been a number of small, like 4 or 5 hour, I guess I'd almost call them like collector conventions, where they set up in a hotel room or a hotel, like
Lobby,
not I
conference
don't,
room.
yeah, like one like a conference room, or one of those like big rooms.
Okay,
um
I
so
got what you
they
mean.
set up for like Sunday from noon until 6, and they have like guest artists and guest people there, and people to sell and to get table space. And I still like, I even sent a message to one of the artists that was going there. It's like, how is this happening? And
Yeah,
they said it was good, but I cannot get my head around it.
yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I can't even get around people that are gathering in small groups because I'm just being so hyper aware of of everything right now that like even small groups freak me out. So I can't even imagine getting together to do something like that and not being a total mess of anxiety the whole time.
I'm right there with you, and that's been an issue, because I want to just mention it because I have a number of people that I've recorded with that are cosplayers, and they have been hit hard, of course, because
Absolutely.
they love to make their costumes and do the photo shoots and go to the conventions and see their friends, and 99% of them are doing exactly what they need to do. But then there's this 1%, and they get called out. And I know that there's like a huge group in Toronto, I believe, where there was like a group of like 20 of them plus like 3 photographers and handlers where they all got together to do this photo shoot. And it was crazy the amount of backlash that they got because of meeting up to do that. And people rightfully were angry. They're like, I haven't seen my friends or my family, and yet you're going out to take pictures? Like,
Yeah.
is that really what you need to be doing right now?
Yeah, I enjoy the TikToks, and I follow quite a few cosplayers on TikTok. And I remember a few weeks ago, a very large group of them all got together. Like, I don't know if they did just like a Airbnb house where they like all got together and stayed together, but I was just like staring at these videos and I was absolutely horrified. I was like, what are you all doing? And they clarified later they did all get COVID tests and like quarantined before they met up, which made me feel a little better, but I was still just like, really? Is this necessary to be doing right now? I don't know.
Yeah, it is something.
It's just weird.
It is, and this definition of like quarantine is so flexible to some people because
Yeah.
oh, I'm quarantining. Well, did you go get gas or go get groceries or go get food? Because that's definitely not quarantining.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
my soapbox, I'd be standing on it to just like I heard from somebody today that they went back to work and they work in a health location, and people there were talking about how they went to go see family and friends at multiple Thanksgivings over the weekend, and
Ugh.
these are like health professionals, learned degrees, and I'm just like, you have got to be kidding me. But
You can't see me right now, but I'm shaking my head.
yes, there's a lot of boiling and bubbling of rage and anger I have at times, and it's like I don't even want to go to go shopping, but I do it once every 2 weeks, and that's it.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate too because you and I live in some of the worst states in the U.S. as far as COVID numbers. Like, last time I checked, I want to say Utah was like 5th highest on the list as far as like COVID numbers, and I know we've only been getting worse since I checked that. So
Yeah,
and Florida's Florida, so
yeah, we show ourselves to the world every day. It's like, look at us, we're Florida.
I know I've sent you some of his stuff, but there's a comedian on TikTok that I really, really enjoy. His name's Ben Brainerd. And he started doing this series this year where he basically plays each one of the states. And it started where they were all sitting at like a large table and having discussions about current events and whatnot. And recently he started doing a Big Brother style situation where they're all in a house together. And they're very clever. And I'm going to send you a link to his website so you can include that as well. But he lives in Florida as well. And his Florida for these skits is just, mwah, I love it so much. It's hysterical. It's so funny. It's just chaotic and all over the place and so funny.
I know that I watched a few of them at the start when you had originally sent them to me, and then
Yeah, I know I sent a few, but oh, they're so good. One of the quotes that sticks out in my mind is they were having an argument about something, and Florida was egging on both sides, and someone's like, "Whose side are you on?" And he just laughs and says, "Chaos knows no sides."
That is so true. Yes.
But yeah, those videos are definitely a bright spot in my day whenever he posts them. So I highly recommend checking him out if you get a chance. He's very funny and very sweet, and seems like a really cool guy.
I'll have to definitely catch up on them. I wanted to flip because we had talked about it in the previous episode.
Yes.
But we talked about conventions and how just a bad idea. And
Yes.
we were talking about like how a lot of movies just got pushed back, or we have Wonder Woman coming out on HBO Max on Christmas Day. Trolls, the sequel, did like super awesome right at the start of the COVID times.
Yep.
Back in March. We've had a number of other movies really come out and sometimes succeed, I think, and sometimes not so much. Where they came out and they just didn't really do obviously the numbers that people are looking for, depending on the model of release, whether it's, putting it on Disney Plus or HBO Max where people can watch it, or getting it video on demand where you're paying like $20 or $30 to rent it. And for like a family of my size, we're like, heck yeah, we can do that.
Absolutely.
And for like a couple like you and your husband, you're like, I don't know if I want to spend that money on.
Well, not to interrupt you, but honestly, I don't know if my husband and I are the best example, because we don't like a lot of other people. So sometimes it's nice to just rent something and watch it in our own home than have to deal with obnoxious other people in a movie theater, especially because, as I previously mentioned, I really love animated films. And sometimes it's really difficult when you want to go see an animated film in the theater and there's a bunch of children who, I'm not totally disparaging, but a lot of the parents don't like have their children act appropriately.
Yep.
I still remember my husband and I went and saw The Secret Life of Pets 2. And there was this family sitting directly next to us that had a toddler and like a baby. And the toddler like slammed the chair tray in the baby's face. The baby started screaming bloody murder. So the mom went out and the dad just let the toddler run up and down our aisle screaming. Like, he didn't stop him. He was just watching the movie. So we had to like get up and move to other seats because this toddler was so unruly. So I will not miss things like that. I would be happy to rent a movie for $30 to not have to deal with that for 2 hours. But there are other times that I do miss, specifically like Marvel and DC movies. They're amazing to watch on the big screen in general, but also when you're in a theater that's packed full of people that are just as invested in this as you are, specifically like Infinity War and Endgame, when you go on like opening night and everybody in there is just like, they've been in this for the last 10 years and everyone's reactions are really genuine and wonderful. And those are great experiences and ones that I will definitely miss out on. But so I don't know. I feel the movie industry is definitely going to change. Like, it's never going to go back to exactly what it was. I think best case scenario moving forward, it's going to be a hybrid situation, kind of like what they're doing with Wonder Woman, where it's being released in theaters, but it's also being released to rent the same day. So like, you can make that choice. And I think that's probably the smartest move.
Definitely. It's definitely something where, and I know you used to work at a movie theater. I remember working at Blockbuster, and one of the things that was always something was there was a certain amount of time between the release of a movie on from the movie theater to where they had to guarantee, like the studios had to guarantee like a 90-day window or a 120-day window for it to be on like DVD and videotape back in the day before it could be sold at other locations or start licensing it out to TV like HBO or whatnot before they could start re-airing it. Like there's like that window, and it's definitely something now where they've had the conflicts of, oh, you're releasing it on video on demand, like essentially like on Amazon or to purchase or to rent. We're not going to show that movie in our movie theater. Now, granted, I don't know if the movie theaters really have like that much leverage at this point, but I can definitely see like them having to rework contracts to figure out this new situation that they're in.
Yeah, and I had mentioned this in the previous episode. Yeah, movie theaters are in a rough spot because there are the diehard cinephiles that are always going to want to go see things in movie theaters. I have a good friend of mine who I love and adore, but every time there's a new movie release that's coming up and they say, and there's an announcement made that it's going to like go directly to streaming services or whatever, his comment is always, I would have waited to see it in the theater. And I'm just like, I love you, but you don't have to say this every time they do this to a movie.
Exactly.
But there are people like him that just really, really are here for the whole movie theater experience. So I think there are always going to be movie theaters, but I do think they're not going to be maybe as common as they were prior to all of this. I think we are probably looking at a few of them probably closing down or consolidating as people, learn there are more options than dragging 3 children to the movies and spending $60 at the concession stands.
Yes, I wonder who among us would be doing that, Jachelle.
It's me. It's totally me.
It is. It's totally you. You're dragging your kitty cats. They
Yep.
gotta go see the newest movie out there.
I dress them up in children's clothes and let them run around the theater while I watch my movie.
The visual of that is just something else in my head right now.
R2 would have a blast. He loves people. He would be all about that. He would just make so many friends.
All right, so I guess we're putting 2020 to bed. What are you looking forward to next year? Because obviously COVID is still going to be around, whether or not like the vaccine distribution happens starting next month, which is actually in a day. Whether it starts happening or not, the information that I keep seeing is that an excessive amount of people are going to have this vaccine, and depending on which vaccine it is, it's a multi-step vaccine for some of them. Some of them have to be stored in like super deep freezers, which there's not a lot of like access to. So we're going to be with COVID at least for the next year, as people start getting vaccinated here in the States and then elsewhere in the world. But what are you looking forward to in the world of stuff that's out there?
Well, so this was actually one that was supposed to be released in 2020, but thanks to COVID has now been pushed to 2021. But it is a movie version of a Broadway musical called In the Heights. If you are familiar with Hamilton, which was written and starred Lin-Manuel Miranda, In the Heights was actually his previous musical that he worked on, and again he played the main character when it was running, but he will not be in the movie, at least not as the same character. I think he might have like a side role. But it is about a small community, poor community in Washington Heights, and kind of about their daily lives and the ins and outs of everything they go through as they struggle to make their own lives better. And it's got his signature musical style, a lot of really clever wordplay, really fast tempo, just very bright and colorful. And I'm very much looking forward to it. I love the soundtrack. I've listened to it over and over again for years. So very much looking forward to seeing that one for sure. I am looking forward to the new Ghostbusters Afterlife. I think that will be a lot of fun.
I totally forgot about that movie.
Yeah. Honestly, I did too, until I happened to bring up a list of 2021 movie releases just to like sort of get my brain thinking, and that one popped up and I was like, oh yeah, I'm actually really excited for that one.
Yeah, that was on my list of I'd like to go see that in the movie theater, and yeah, then it just vanished like almost everything else.
Yes. So yeah, I think that one looks like it'll be a lot of fun. My husband's a huge Ghostbusters fan. He's loved it ever since he was younger. And so I think we're both really looking forward to that one. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And Black Widow is also on my list if it ever comes out.
Yeah, that is again on the list. As a person that again lives in Florida, coincidentally Orlando, I question a lot of what Disney does at times
Mhm.
with regards to here in Florida. Over in California, they're just like not allowed to be open at all. I think I know Disney Japan is open. I'm not sure about Paris or Shanghai at this point, but yeah, I'm always like I'm back and forth with their plans, especially with Disney Plus, because they put Onward out on video on demand first, like on Amazon and wherever you could buy it, and then they put it on Disney Plus like 2 or 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
They did Hamilton the same, where they just went straight to Disney Plus instead of charging people to watch it, which was incredible because we finally got to watch it.
Yes.
But then they flip-flopped and put Mulan as a I quote like premiere or premium thing on
Right.
Disney Plus. It's the only thing on Disney Plus that's that way. But then it flips in December to just being a regular movie on Disney Plus, I believe.
Yes, which is what we've been waiting for. Honestly, if it had gotten better reviews, I think my husband and I might have been willing to pay for it to see it. But since it got kind of lukewarm reviews, we're like, we'll just wait.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that I wish Disney would make up their mind and be like, you know what,
Yeah.
this is our model.
Consistency.
Exactly. And not only is it consistency, I think if they really want Disney Plus to do the numbers that they want to do, they need to just sidestep the video on demand side of like putting it out there on Amazon and just, okay, we're going to do it premium. You have like, this is the window of time before we actually like drop it from whatever it's going to be. Like essentially a movie's in the movie theater for what, 2 to 3 months. Here's your movie theater price. Otherwise, wait until it hits our video service for like, in the 4 or 5 month gap, and just let it go from there. Some people will just wait, like we are for Mulan. Other people will pay for it. And that's the same way that the movie theater would have worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as long as people are doing it safely, I will say that one of the things that I'm looking forward to, and I think it should be coming out in 2021, crossing fingers, is the Leverage TV series that they are doing.
Yes, I hope so. I mean, I know they've been filming.
Yes.
Because I follow them on Facebook, and they're always posting these really cute pictures, and looks like everyone's being really safe. They're always like wearing masks and social distancing for the most part. So that gives me hope. And yeah, I'm so excited to see that, especially because Christian Kane posted a picture of himself with LeVar Burton recently, who is one of my longtime heroes. And I'm like, is this new LeVar Burton's going to be in the new Leverage? Because that would just make my life.
Oh, we tried to get the kids to watch an old Reading Rainbow episode way back in the day, and that didn't fly with them.
Oh, that hurts my heart. That was my favorite show when I was younger. Like, I mean, I was always destined to be a bookworm because my favorite shows when I was younger were Reading Rainbow and Wishbone.
I was a Reading Rainbow, and then there was a science show that was called 3-2-1 Contact. And then so they always talked about sciencey stuff, and that those were the two influences. And then there's like Mr. Wizard, but I think Mr. Wizard was a Canadian show because I don't ever find references.
I've heard of Mr. Wizard, but it's not something I've ever seen. So I don't know. I think I always just assumed it was before my time, but yeah, maybe it was Canadian.
Maybe I did spend some years up in the northern part of North America. Now, before we wrap up, I mean, I guess we've got 2021. There's a lot of 2020 stuff that just hasn't come out yet, and it's I almost wonder, like, are we going to be able to handle everything that they're like? Well, look, we've got 100 movies that need to come out and TV shows. Watch them all.
I mean, I don't know if it's really going to be that much different than my regular life with with the amount, we have multiple streaming services in this house. And there's so many TV shows, movies, documentaries, just everything that I will never run out of things to watch until the day that I die. So what's some more on the pile, really?
Exactly. It's like I guess I can equate it to, it's like buying books for your I'm going to read this pile,
Yes.
but they're not taking up any physical space. So it
Yes.
works.
Which speaking as someone who literally has 3 very large piles of unread books sitting like 4 feet away from me right now, that's great.
I had a pile of unread books earlier this year and I put them in a box and now I don't know where the box has gone. So that will probably be something that happens the remainder of the month, is finding those books that have decided to disappear on me.
Yes. My the library that's down the street from me, they recently underwent some renovations. And actually, I'm really sad that I haven't been able to go check it out now that the renovations are done because of COVID. But before they shut down, they had a huge sale to like get rid of all their excess books. So I literally have like 45 books that I purchased for maybe $6.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
They've just been sitting there waiting for me to read them, and I don't know how long it'll take me, but I'll get there eventually.
Forever. All right, Jachelle. Now, for people
Yes.
that don't know, you've been on this podcast so many times. I think we've gone past counting on fingers at this point. So we've moved on to toes. But you've been on a number of episodes. You're the first guest. You've been on continuously, keep coming on and keep hanging out and talking to me. But I know you do stuff and you have Instagrams and things. So if you want people to know what you do, now is the time to talk about it.
All right. Well, if you want to hear more of me rambling thoughts about media, you can check out the Long Con podcast. It is one that I host with my other best friend, Chelsea, who has also been a guest on this show several times. We just break down and discuss movies, TV shows, things that we enjoy. We actually did a episode by episode recap of the final season of The Good Place. So if you're a fan of that, please go check those out. I think they're pretty good. And I don't have a huge online presence beyond that. So my Instagram is Sugar Shocking. Mostly it's just pets and things that I bake, which they're not even like fancy things. It's just like, hey, I made some cookies. Or you can follow my cats on Instagram, who are way cuter than and you can find them at Droidalair. And yeah, that's about it for me.
Awesome. I will have all the links, not only to the Grams and the Long Con podcast, but I'll also have links to every single episode that you have been on. So that way, if people enjoyed this, they can go back and take a listen to other episodes that you have been on. And as always, I appreciate your time and hanging out with me. And for those who have made it, we're done. This podcast is over. I'm done with it. I can't take
Happy
it anymore.
2020.
I'm done with the podcast until next year. So you can follow.
You deserve a break.
I deserve a break. Yes, it's a good time to take a break because December is always crazy anyway,
Yes.
with numbers of birthdays and Christmas and Hanukkah, and just taking a break
Life.
is good.
Yes.
So, you can find me mostly on Twitter, which is Tails FT Fandom, and I post a lot there, or I like to share stuff. Especially like stuff from the world of like tabletop role playing, or people that make stuff. Like a lot of artists are really talented and I love what they do. So I love to share it. So you can follow me there. Otherwise you can check out the socials, on my Instagram, my website, Facebook. I exist in all corners of the Tales from the Fandom. I've already got episodes lined up for next year. So the good news is in January, you'll get new episodes. I'm like John Oliver, not British, not as old as him, I take breaks, but I have more stuff coming up. So you can always rest assured that I will have hopefully something for you that is better than the last thing. But everybody's good. I love all my episodes.
Yes.
Not all of them. Don't tell them that though.
Oh,
Because
uh,
that's a secret.
I'll keep it a secret.
But
It's me,
Jachelle,
isn't it?
It's definitely not you. There would have been a time where I'd be like, no more Jachelle. In fact, because we're wrapping up and this is how it's going to be. We are hoping, crossing fingers,
Yes.
that we have more Book Trek episodes to come at you, those who are listening, because we did it, and those episodes are really good and have really done numbers, which I was always shocked by, but people like them, so we're gonna bring it back, and
Yes.
I know we're gonna continue some Iron Druid Chronicles by Kevin Hearn, but we're gonna possibly throw some other stuff in there as well. But look for that next year, because it's not going to be this year. I don't have time to read. But for those listening to Tales from the Fandom, thank you so much again, as always, for your I don't want to say viewership, but listenership, and hang out with us next year. And thank you again, Jachelle, for everything.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.